In this video, we're going to be doing an oil change on this 2011 Honda Odyssey. Okay, to gain us a little bit more access, this is an optional step. We're going to remove our engine cover. I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and turn these two locking tabs here. And we're just going to lift our engine cover straight up. We can set that aside. Now what we're going to do is come down here. We're going to notice that we're looking for 0W20 oil. We're going to open up our oil fill cap. We're going to set that aside as well. And then we're going to go to our oil dipstick. What we're going to do here is remove our dipstick and we're going to clean it. I'm going to clean the old oil off of the dipstick. So now when we replace the oil, we're ready for a good clean reading. Now we can set this aside, continue on with the rest of our oil change. All right, so underneath the vehicle, we found our oil pan. You can see it says engine oil. This is what we're gonna pull out. This is our drain plug. It's gonna be a 17mm socket. At this point, you're gonna need some kind of drain pan or collection bucket for your oil to drain into. We're gonna back out and remove this 17mm bolt now. All right, now that our oil is drained out, what we're gonna do is just put a rag down bottom here, put our bolt back in place, put that in finger tight. And with our 17mm, we're just going to snug this up and we'll come back and torque it down. All right, we can torque this down to 30 foot-pounds. Now something I like to do once you have your bolt back in place is hit the area with the little brake clean and dry it off. Get any old residue from the oil draining. That way there now, when you take a look underneath, if you see any new wet spots, you know you have a leak, you'll have to retighten. All right, we're gonna remove the wheel. We're gonna use a 22mm socket. Inboard behind your passenger side tire, you'll find your oil filter. Our vehicle was missing a couple of clips here, so what we're gonna do is just push this out of the way to give you a little bit more access to view the oil filter. We're gonna use an oil filter wrench. Pull out our old filter. Now at this point, you still want to have your drip collection down. You will have some oil leaking out, and you will have oil in the filter itself. Okay, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this area here where our O-ring sits, and we're going to clean the threads. I'm going to use just a little bit of brake clean. Clean up that area and follow it up with a rag. Looking for a nice clean surface for our O-ring and our threads to grab to. Okay, so our first step before we put on our oil filter is to prime it with some new oil. So we're going to slowly pour in some new oil. I'll pour it about halfway. And then we're going to let it soak in. What we're also going to do is just rotate it slowly. And because our oil filter doesn't go on completely vertically, it goes on at a slight angle, we're not going to fill it to the top. Okay, once we've gotten our oil to soak in and we're about a ½ inch below the threads here, what we're going to do is just take a dab on our finger and put it around this gasket. Okay, so now that our oil filter is ready and primed, can bring it to the vehicle, find our threads, and thread it on. Now with oil filters, what I like to do is get a nice dry, clean hand, not soaked with oil. Same thing with the filter, clean and dry the filter. Get a good grip on it and spin it as tight as you can by hand. Okay, now that we have our lug nuts snugged up and we have the vehicle down on the ground with some weight on the suspension, we're going to torque our lug nuts to 94 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. Okay, so now back up top, where we took our engine oil fill out, we can put our funnel in and start to fill our oil. We're going to be looking for 4.2 quarts for a full oil change with filter. Okay, at this point, what we can do is put our dipstick in and check the oil level. You may have to do this a couple of times to get an accurate reading. The oil may bubble up the tube, give you a false reading once or twice. Seat it all the way down. You'll see 2 O-rings here, seated all the way down to the top. Pull this out, see where our oil level is. You can see we're just above where we want to be, so that might just be a couple of bubbles. We'll do this again. And you can see we're just inside those hash marks. At this point, you should have 4.2 quarts of oil in your tank. If you happen to need more oil or haven't put enough in to get between these hash marks here, go ahead and add more. If everything looks good, put your dipstick back in, seat it all the way in. Take your oil cover, screw that back on. And then you can finish by putting your engine cover back in place. And with the Phillips screwdriver, you can turn these 2 locking tabs into position. Go ahead and turn those to lock. Now at this point, what I would do is run my car, warm it up, make sure the oil circulates through the system, park it, let it cool down. Check your oil again, make sure you're still within your marks. If you need some more oil, go ahead and add oil. If everything looks good, then you're done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.